I think the big shock of Black Monday is that Chuck Pagano, against all odds, is still the coach of the Colts. And also his general manager, Ryan Grigson, also there. We had heard reports of the T word thrown around, toxic, the relationship between those two. And yet Jim Irsay brings them both back, signs them to extensions. Was this a right move, Wes, or a disastrous one for the Colts?
Of course it's the right move. I never understood this from the beginning, why he was on the hot seat. He wins the division every year except this year when he needed to have 5 quarterbacks. They go 5-3 with a 40-year-old, as he said, a country western star with a bad hammy who couldn't tap out because he loves his teammates too much. At the Brooklyn Thrasher, Josh Freeman, they win.
Coney Island Thrasher.
They go 5 or 6-3 with these guys. They finish 8-8. He goes 11-5 every other year with a roster not good enough to beat the Patriots. That's not his fault.
The weirdest moment of the press conference is the shots that Jim Irsay was taking at Bill Polian, because he feels the public's distrust of Ryan Grigson. And I think some of those reports about the toxic relationship, you have to question where they're coming from. Grigson and Pagano did not get along. And what Irsay did, he points out that Grigson has a better record in his first 4 years than Bill Polian ever did. Well, that's Pagano's record to me. Grigson has not made many good moves other than inheriting Andrew Luck, and Pagano's done a good job taking that roster and maximizing what they have.
Wasn't this maybe, if you're Jim Irsay, the only move if he thought enough of Chuck Pagano, and I really think like some of these speeches that Pagano gave with Irsay standing in the locker room really played a part in this because he's so good at that. But what about the idea that Irsay had to basically decide, hey, if I want Pagano here, I cannot put him in a situation where he has a new GM that didn't hire him. I need to keep Grigson and just roll with this, and hopefully things get better.
I like what he did. I mean, he basically said, I'm going to look at the fact that the players love this guy, and that matters versus with some owners that doesn't seem to matter at all. He let the general manager and the coach sit together in a room and hash it out. Now, we don't know what was said. We can only assume that we know these guys don't love each other, but they came out of there with some sort of a promise to make it work. And I like that.
Yeah,
I mean, you're giving
how is that relationship though by the combine when they already hated each other?
That's fine.
And then they have to start making decisions
but you're taking
again.
a complete chance if you start over with a coach that would have gotten another job in a second and probably still keep Grigson. If he's hard to get along with someone like Chuck Pagano, he's not going to get along with the next coach.
It's supposedly that Chuck Pagano is the one that pushed to have Grigson's contract extended so that their contracts were married up. And that has to go a long way with Ryan Grigson, that you're that good of a guy. And I watched that, and I just thought Jim Irsay likes Chuck Pagano so much. Like, he's backslapping. He's saying, oh, this guy, this is my buddy. That ultimately, when he got in a room, he just couldn't say no to Pagano. He liked him too much.
Do you know what the most fascinating part of this whole thing was? Chuck Pagano somehow ended up with leverage. By the end of the season, he leveraged the interest from other teams around the league, his respect in the coaching community, and the love in the locker room into Jim Irsay, saying, I know I have to keep this guy now.
How about the idea of you shouldn't trust a GM whose traps are larger than your offensive lineman? That's some people are talking about that outside.
Yeah, a lot of chatter around.
So I'm just bringing it to you guys. Any issue with Ryan
I think
Grigson?
Pagano's shown there's legit reason to not trust a GM with bigger traps / pecs, whatever.
Yeah.
But
Pagano's
shown that he can get over that hump.
Yeah.
He can. He showed that yesterday.
They can't eat you.
It's a concern.
We learned it.
It's got to be a concern that Grigson is better probably as an offensive lineman than all the offensive linemen he drafts.
Ooh.
That's a problem.
Yeah, so now they're all together and everybody's happy. Now get a freaking offensive line. Protect your Hall of Fame young quarterback.
Whoa.
Let's get to work.
You know who's not happy? Bill Polian. Ridiculous shot.
Bill had his time. Check out the Around the NFL podcast 3 times a week.